Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, Professor of Economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, thank you as always for coming on.
Happy to be here.
Well, the U.S. markets were closed on Friday for Independence Day. A lot of concerns about the coronavirus outbreak in America, but the futures are up right now. Korean stocks significantly higher today. What's the story in the global markets?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, the U.S. markets did have a very good week last week. Dow went up by 3.3%, S&P by 4%, and NASDAQ by 4.6%. And then it turned out that the second quarter in the United States was the best quarterly performance that the U.S. stock market had seen in decades. Dow went up by 17%, S&P by 20%, and NASDAQ by 30%. No one's quite sure why the stock market is doing so well. There's some speculation that it's because of individual investors, what they call the Eastern ants in Korea. The United States call the Robin Hood investors. But there's more than unusually large number of individual investors investing in the stock market in the United States. Also, last week they had a boost because the unemployment figures for June was lower than what a lot of analysts expected at 11.1%. But there does seem to be quite a bit of disconnect between how the stock market is doing and the real economy. So there's also a rising concern about bubbles. The other stock markets in Europe and Asia, they seem to have taken their cue from the United States. They're not necessarily doing as well as the United States, but they have been in the rising trend last week. That includes the Nikkei, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, though Hong Kong personally seems a bit surprising because of all the troubles they had in the last couple of weeks. But still, the stock market as a whole seemed to be rising, and KOSPI and the KOSDAQ was no exception. KOSPI from Tuesday to Friday rose by 2.8%, and it rose today by 1.7%. KOSDAQ, it rose from last Wednesday. It rose last week from Wednesday to Friday, 3.4%, and then today, additional 1.0%.
Well, now, with the issue of U.S. China trade on top of the coronavirus, we have people going to assets they see as safe, like gold. In terms of Korean won, the gold price as of the end of June was up 22% year to date. What do you see happening with gold?
Okay, well, in periods of global instability, gold prices usually go up as investors move to secure assets. And it seems to be what's happening in the United States as well, though it is surprising that both stock prices and gold prices are rising at the same time. With the Korean won price of gold, you also have to figure in the Korean won depreciation. If you just look at the global price of gold in dollars, it rose by 9.8% this year so far. It started out this year at $1,617. It ended on July 6th on $1,774.97. And since September 2018, it's been more or less a steady increase. Though there has been a slightly unusual situation in March when we saw the stock market drop because of the coronavirus. One of the really interesting things that happened there was that gold prices dropped as well. On March 9th, it was $1,680, and then on the 19th, it fell to $1,471, which is very unusual. If the stock market falls like that, gold prices usually rise, but it seems that there were some legal requirements that the investors had to pay back some obligations in cash during that week, so that caused a run on cash, which actually dropped gold prices. But since then, it's recovered to more or less what we see regularly, which is that when the global instability is rising, the gold prices are rising as well. Now, it ended on July 6th at $1,774. Historically, there were couple of times, there was one time that it rose higher than this, which was on July 2011, when it hit $1,837. And inflation-wise, there were two times when you adjust for inflation, the gold prices rose two times higher than where it is right now, which was August 2011 and January 1980. That was during the second oil shock. So if the coronavirus continues, then there is a possibility that gold prices will rise as well. But I also should mention that we saw gold price drop quite rapidly when economy returned to stability.
Right. Well, Professor, we're almost out of time, but before we go, what should we be looking ahead to this week?
Okay, well, this week it's actually a fairly quiet week for statistics. There's international accounts numbers coming out from the Bank of Korea, and financial market trends and international financial market trends also by Bank of Korea coming in this week. Neither it will be too surprising. The curious thing that we should be looking out for is that, well, the international account numbers are for May, and the May trade account was slightly in surplus at $400 million. It'll be interesting to see if the current account is also positive, or if current account it will be negative because of the service trade deficits.
All right, Professor Yang, we'll catch up with you in a couple of days. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.